Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah. Happy Monday. Let's go. If I sound like I'm in a good mood, because I know we're about to have a hell of a show, we're going to kick it off with a little message from Eric Cartman on South Park.
It's on! Race war! Race war! Race war! Race war's on, everybody! It's going down! It's going down!
All right. Dude, it was so silly over the weekend. I don't know if your social media feed is as just ridiculous as mine, but there were dueling rallies in Frisco on Saturday, all hinging around the Austin Metcalf stabbed by Carmelo Anthony. And I don't have to say allegedly. He admitted to that. Whether or not it will be considered murder or self-defense, still up in the air. But the dueling rallies, all it did was show two sides of the race hustler coin. Now, we are quite familiar with one side of the race hustler coin. That they have rallies all the time. They had rallies in downtown Dallas for 5 policemen got killed. You don't see a whole lot of the other side of the race hustler coin. You forget they exist because you don't even name the leader of the white supremacists in America. Name our leaders. And I don't mean our, like literally like I'm part of it. But like you could say, name some leaders who are race hustlers in the African-American community, all the way down the line. Jesse Jackson, the Al Sharptons here locally. Now we got the Dominic Alexander and a few other prominent folks out there. I mean, I wouldn't consider like Jasmine Crockett in there, but I can't even name who their counterpoint is. Who, David Duke? When's the last time David Duke was on TV or ran for office or held a rally that more than 12 people attended? So this is a rare glimpse. And again, you almost forget that these people exist. But the around the corner from Kirkendall Stadium, there was a rally in support of Carmelo Anthony. It says a peaceful rally showing solidarity for our young black child. And then 2 signs are being held up in the flyer. One says drop the charges. The other one says charge Hunter Metcalf. Woo! Okay. I mean, he's okay. That was Saturday, April 19th, 11 a.m. The other rally, I'm looking at the flyer now for it. It says, protect white Americans. Justice for Austin Metcalf. Demand Carmelo Anthony be put back in prison until trial. I guess they mean jail. And then it says peaceful protest, April 19th, also 11 a.m. Frisco, Texas. That's a typo. I'm sure it's supposed to be Frisco, but it says Frisco, Texas. Wakefield High School parking lot. And then there's a little caption down there. It says, stop black violence on white Americans. And at the very bottom of the flyer, it says, protect white Americans was founded by January 6th political prisoner and U.S. Senate candidate Jake Lang, pwaus.com. I wish the other people had a website on their flyer. But so who's this Jake Lang guy that's organizing this protest, or the titular head of the Protect White Americans protest? He is a January 6th political prisoner. He was held for something like 1,500 something days for doing something on January 6th. I really didn't dig that much into it because he got pardoned as soon as Donald Trump got back into office. I don't know if he was in jail that whole time, but we had another couple of local people who were January 6th political prisoners, and we've heard their stories. So I guess it's probably not that different for this guy, except now he's running for U.S. Senate. Not here. He's not one of the guys that's trying to unseat John Cornyn. He came all the way in from Florida, which answers the question, where'd that big bus come from? There was a big bus with his face on it, American flag, and it's obviously a campaign bus. So this guy has some level of funding. I don't have a giant traveler sleeper bus like I'm in a rock band or anything, but he did. He showed up. And the reporting on this is terrible, as you would expect. But coming up next, my first guest is going to spell out some of the questions I'm about to ask next, because he was actually there, Tony Ortiz from Current Revolt. Now, how many people were there? It looked like maybe 20 people were there for the rally. There were a bunch of counter-protesters there, too. There were a handful of people covering it. Now, you can tell what the TV people look like because they're all beautiful and their hair looks great and they look all fashionable in their dress. And then there's a bunch of bloggers and people who are kind of considering themselves freelance or journalists of the people who are just not dressed like bums, but jeans and a t-shirt. They look like regular. So it's kind of hard to tell who's actually in support of this rally and who was there to try and get some clicks on their TikTok channel, or who was actually reporting on it for some newspaper or some of these second level websites. And so I really don't have a good answer for you. We'll get that in the next segment. Here is why I'm starting the show with it. This audio is just incredible. So Jake Lang's out there, and some guy shows up. I think I've seen this guy before. Bruce Carter, local entrepreneur. He used to be like a Bernie bro, and then he campaigned for Trump in this last election cycle. So I don't know if he's all over the map or had some sort of political awakening, or maybe he's just a political opportunist. But he had a message to deliver to Jake Lang from the father. He pulls out a phone. They call Jeff Metcalf, and then on speakerphone they have a conversation where Jake Lang gives his little spiel. And then when it's the dad's turn to talk, don't worry, Garrett, I bleep this. He completely rejects, the Jeff Metcalf completely rejects Jake Lang because of the racial angle. Now, I'm going to play this, and if you can't understand it, I'll read you the transcript next. But this is what happened on Saturday.
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay, my turn to speak.
My turn to speak. You hear that?
My friend, you're trying to create more race divide than bridging the gap. I do not condone anything you do. You do not have any.
That's called white guilt.
No, let it talk.
My son, let me finish. I give you your time. You take my son's face off your website. I am not associated with you. I don't.
You're creating more Austin Metcalfs with your weakness, sir.
Thanks.
You are creating more Austin Metcalfs
Black
with your
man here,
weakness.
you are being weak. I gotta be honest with you about that, sir.
Oh, my God.
Condemn your son's killer and the culture that caused it.
Oh, my God. This guy is being like the most magnanimous, Jesus-like, just off Easter weekend, Jesus-like character I've ever seen. His own son's been sacrificed, and he's not willing to say one bad thing about the other family. He's already forgiven the kid. He's now calling and shouting down the people that are trying to make this a racial issue, and I think he's trying to do it on both sides. I don't know if he tried to call the other rally, but I think that's might have been why he was there at the press conference last week. What was it, on Thursday? But if you didn't understand what he said, I'm sorry. That's the best audio we had. Actually, my next guest got it, Tony. But he says, you are the effing problem, my friend. This is what Jeff Metcalf said to the organizer of Protect White Americans. He said, you are the effing problem, my friend. You're trying to create more race divide than bridging the gap. I do not condone anything you do. You do not have any bleeping. And then Jake talked over him for a second. And then when it came back to him, you take my son's face off your website. I am not associated with you. And then he started to get talked over in any way, in some way. So I know you could hear what Jake was saying, but that's what the father was saying. Wow. Okay, coming up next, more intimate details from a guy who was actually there on Saturday at the Frisco Protect White Americans rally. Tony Ortiz from currentrevolt.com. I'd like to hear from you, too. What do you think about Protect White Americans rally? Do you think that's the right angle to take at this? Or is it just the less melanated version of race hustling? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You may have seen on your social media feed or the news that there were dueling protests in Frisco over the weekend over the Carmelo Anthony situation. One side saying that he needs to be released, not just released, drop the charges. Also, that Hunter Metcalf needs to be charged. The other one, protect white Americans. It was put together, we think, by Jake Lang, a Senate candidate in Florida. Is listed as a peaceful protest, but how many people were there? Was it peaceful? Any arrests? The local news isn't much help, so we'll ask a guy who was actually there. The great Tony Ortiz is back on the James Show from currentrevolt.com, and thank you for going out there. Because, look, number one, you get credit because you have to take time out of your weekend. I know this isn't what you wanted to do with your Easter weekend. And then also there is like a level of danger, or at least irritants, with going to cover these people. It's not a fun activity to be a part of. So first off, thank you for going, Tony. Now tell me what you saw. How many people were there?
Yeah, so to clear things up right away, there were what you said is accurate. There was 2 dueling protests, and for the pro Carmelo Anthony protest that wanted charges dropped and the brother arrested, nobody showed up. Nobody was there. In fact, one of my colleagues showed up.
That's great news.
He said,
Fantastic. Okay, good.
And he showed up, and the police were like, "Well, you're at the protest, but nobody's here." So he went over to the pro with the white protect white Americans rally, and that's where I was stationed. And the good news is that only 2 people really got hurt, and they both looked like they were part of Antifa. But as far as attendance, there was none. It was very, very ill attended. There were more police and there were more media than there were attendees.
Okay, so in the videos I saw, it looked like there was maybe 16 to 20 people, but I couldn't tell if they were actually there to support the rally or they were just there as counter protesters or podcasters and bloggers and stuff looking to get some footage, or legit media. I did see a whole lot of cops there. How many people actually supported the rally? Do we know?
I would say maybe 2 or 3 at most. Everybody there was there to grift. Okay, I mean everybody from the media, myself included, to the speakers, to even some of the protesters there. Everybody was there for the reasons that were not related to actually supporting Anthony Metcalf. Okay, so I was there along with other media to get coverage, right? To get clicks, to get views. That's just a fact, right? We have a business to run and we want to cover the news, right? I'm there for that. Okay, and so is the rest of the media. You had people that were protesting that were there that weren't even there related to the incident itself. There was a guy screaming about T-Mobile and how he hated T-Mobile, and he had signs up and he was screaming the entire time. Totally goofy guy. You had Antifa there that was wearing masks, and they were there just to cause problems.
How many Antifa were there? This is kind of humorous at this point.
Yeah, you had maybe 10 to 12,
okay,
10 to a dozen. Yeah.
Did I see a guy that got pepper sprayed?
Yeah. So there was an incident where a guy in a MAGA hat was getting in the face and screaming at a rather large woman in a COVID mask about something, and they were screaming at each other. And he screamed at her. She pushed him in the chest, and then she maced him in the face. And of course, police swarmed her. They arrested her. The gentleman I spoke to, and you can see it on our website, he said he's going to file charges. And then one of her Antifa brethren, another masked individual, also very, very heavy set, got in the face of a police officer. He was taken down very aggressively. He was also arrested.
Okay, let's talk about this organizer, though. What do we know about Jake Lang? I saw he's running for Senate in Florida, but is anyone taking him serious? He seems to have some sort of funding because there was a bus there with his face on it. Is he legit?
I would say no. And I'd say that if you are anybody that takes this person serious, maybe you just need to read up a little bit more about him or his intentions.
Well, I don't think he's legit, but does he have a following, I guess would be a better way.
No,
okay.
I'm not saying you are either, but I would say anybody who is, he definitely has a following. I mean, he's a J6er, right? And, say what you want about J6ers, either way, a lot of them, and I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them have turned the fact that they were jailed for J6 into something they could profit off of now, like media talking points, and they're trying to become political figures, right? Take, for example, Jake Lang running for office. Now all of a sudden he's running for office, and for some reason he's made his way out to Texas to promote, whatever it is he's promoting, and give all these speeches to an empty parking lot of people, handful of people. And Metcalf sent some guy, some PR guy, to talk to Lang, to tell him, like, hey, stop using my son's name for your grift, your bus tour. And I got recording, and it's on the website, but they got Metcalf's dad on speakerphone yelling at Jake Lang, telling him, hey, like, stop doing this.
You know what? I had played that in the
last.
last segment, but just in case people are joining us, I'll play it real quick again, Tony. Hang on.
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay, my turn to speak. You are the problem, my friend. You're trying to create more race divide than bridging the gap. I do not condone anything you do. Do not have any.
That's called white guilt.
No, let it talk.
My son, let me finish. I give you your time. You take my son's face off your website. I am not associated with you.
You're creating more Austin Metcalfs with your weakness, sir.
Oh my God.
Facts.
All right, so you are the effing problem, my friend. You're trying to create more race divide than bridging the gap. This guy seems to, at every turn, be trying to extend an olive branch. He forgave the killer the day that it happened, and when he was asked to leave, he left from the press conference, and now he's calling in and shouting down this guy who's trying to racialize the killing. This father seems to be kind of a special guy.
Yeah, and people disagree and are disagreeing whether or not, he's taking the right approach and whether he should forgive Carmelo Anthony so easily. And, that's up for debate. But the issue is you've got the father specifically saying, hey, don't do this. And Lang is still insistent on running this grift. And somebody told me the biggest sign of a grifter is when, they stop actually having empathy for what they're grifting off of. And you got the father literally telling Lang, don't do this. And Lang's turning him around and calling him a traitor and guilty of white guilt, and that he's creating more deaths by being soft on this. And it's just disgusting. Everybody, and I'll tell you this, the feeling from everybody in the group, including some of the people that were hosting the bus for Lang, that it was like, Lang is disgusting. He kept interrupting the father.
Yep.
And he's just intent on running this PR campaign, which again is pathetic. Nobody showed up.
Tony Ortiz, I got to run, but you can check out his great work, currentrevolt.com. Thank you so much for going and getting that great audio, Tony. Appreciate it. You made the show. Coming up, there is a follow-up to what happened at the two rallies, really just one rally. Make no mistake about it. Anyone who is interested in going to either one of these rallies is just absolute poison to our society. But I'll tell you how Jake Lang may still be in trouble with the law just yet. Coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Dueling rallies over the Carmelo Anthony situation and the stabbing death of Austin Metcalf were held in Frisco over the weekend, and it was two sides of the same race-baiting coin. There was one that was in support of Carmelo Anthony, asking that his charges be dropped and Hunter should be charged. And that was so unpopular that no one showed up, or at least when people show up and they don't see anyone else there, they leave. So I imagine there may have been some people that like drove by and they're like, I'm not going to be the first person standing in an empty parking lot. So that was a complete embarrassing failure, and almost as grand of a failure as that was the Protect White Americans rally that was happening next to the stadium where the stabbing happened. And as you just heard from my guest, Tony Ortiz, it was sparsely attended with supporters. In fact, there were probably more Antifa there, counter protesters. There was definitely more media and cops there than actual rally supporters. So first off, round of applause. It sounds like our society is getting better. Like when race baiting rallies get zero people, don't get any attendance. That's fantastic news, ladies and gentlemen, because it didn't used to always be like that in American society. Now, Jeff Metcalf, the dad of Austin Metcalf, the kid who was murdered, or we don't know, but the kid who was killed, I should say. Don't want to get sued. He called in and he shouted down the organizer on the spot. That went all over social media all weekend. And then he also had an interview with the New York Post where they didn't put out the audio of this, but in print, the New York Post had this quote from the dad, Jeff Metcalf. It says, "They are all race baiters, effing people that want to spew their narrative for their own agenda. They don't give a bleep about my family, about Carmelo Anthony's family. I want the superintendent to explain to me how you let this white piece of trash on school property where my son was murdered less than 2 weeks ago." That is a quote of Jeff Metcalf, according to the New York Post. Now, it's a lot of sauce there in one quote. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. You know, I haven't heard anyone called like a race traitor in real life until like this weekend. That was something I heard. What was that on American History X? Where I first heard that, like, race traitor. What's even a race traitor? I don't know you anything. Why? Because you're pale? Who said I'm on your team to begin with? Anyway, it's so rare. It's like a novelty. Like, wow, there's an actual racist. This is wild. So now the story isn't over. After the rallies were over, according to the Dallas News, it looks like that Jake Lang, the guy who organized Protect White Americans, jumped the fence and went into the stadium where the stabbing happened. So, oh my goodness, wait a second. He's not allowed to be in there. So I think that's criminal trespass. So the Dallas News asked Frisco ISD, hey, don't you think that's trespassing? And Frisco ISD told the Dallas Morning News on Saturday that they were in the process of filing trespassing charges. So then the media turned to the Frisco Police Department, and Grant, the Frisco police spokesman, confirmed this morning that the police department has been in contact with the school district and taken an offense report regarding the incident, which is under investigation. Also, while Jake Lang was in there, he did a selfie video. I mean, what a disgusting low-life grifter this fella appears to be. Like, everything I said about Dominic Alexander last week, you could just flip the script and put it on this guy this week. He was saying, this is where it happened, and you see this little dark spot over here. I believe this is Austin Metcalf's blood from the murder. Well, it turned out he was on the wrong side of the stadium. He was on the complete opposite side of the stadium for where the stabbing actually happened, according to the spokesman from Amanda McCune from Frisco ISD. So, yeah, the individual in this video filming on the home side of the stadium. The incident occurred on the visitor side, which can be seen across the field when he turns the camera off himself. They also tried to get Lang for comment on Saturday. I haven't seen any comments from him about this. I actually reached out to him on Twitter and like, hey, you want to come on the show and explain yourself? This is not looking too good. So I don't know. Maybe I should have been a little more judicious, but I have heard nothing back from him either. Your thoughts? 800-288-9227. This is a wild one, isn't it? 800-288-9227. Michelle Weatherford, you're on WBAP. What do you think, Michelle?
Hey, James. I'm just driving, listening to you, and I think that what the dad did is amazing. I think it does set a good standard and just shows people that it doesn't have to be the way that it is a lot of times. But I do wonder if the roles were reversed and if the white boy would have stabbed the black boy, how crazy would it be right now? How much violence would be happening? And it wouldn't just be in Frisco. I feel like it would be all over the United States. And so that does make me sad. And I just wonder if this is actually going to show people that it doesn't have to be that way, or if the next time it happens, if it's the other way around, if it's going to be violent, you know?
Well, I always like when you try and put it in context like that, because you're absolutely right. We don't have to wonder what it would be like. We know the Trayvon Martin situation is probably the closest analog we have to this. And, you know, someone passed along that like 3 years ago, there was a 17-year-old white kid who stabbed to death like a 17-year-old Hispanic kid in a high school bathroom or something to that effect in Central Texas. And that didn't seem to blow up very much. And no, it's an easy context to make, and you're absolutely right. If the roles had been reversed, you know, what would everybody be saying right now? Would there be?
I feel like Frisco would be burning down right now if it's the other way around. I'm just saying.
Well, maybe we're making progress to where that's not going to be the case going forward. Maybe the fact that the two rallies were so sparsely attended means that racism is finally just disappearing over the horizon in our past. And I really hope that the little bit of optimism I feel that these rallies were so sparsely attended is a sign of progress.
I agree so much. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Well, that's no fun when you agree with me all the time. Oh, no, you're right, Michelle. No, you're right, James. No, I agree more. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I mean, I would try and get some racists to call in, but I don't actually know any. Do you? 800-288-9227. You don't have to answer that. But coming up next, the legal analyst on the James Show, Jeremy Rosenthal, is going to explain the situation that's now facing the guy who organized the rally. Is that criminal trespass? What are we going to do? Go arrest him in Florida and extradite him to Texas for jumping a fence? I don't know. Let's ask the legal expert next on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hello, Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Gunther sends me a message via Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it. He says, Americans deserve better than a Congress that has only worked 25 days out of this entire year. And I told him, you're absolutely right. We can get that number much lower. My next guest is the unofficial legal analyst for the James Show. Jeremy Rosenthal's back on from TexasDefenseFirm.com. Jeremy, I want to start with this criminal trespass that's on the table. The guy that organized the Protect White Americans rally in Frisco on Saturday jumped the fence and did a selfie video in the stadium trying to act like I'm at the crime scene and I'm so cool and I'm getting clicks and whatnot. And Frisco ISD said they are pursuing criminal charges. The Frisco police has confirmed that they've gotten this request and are looking into it. But what can we do for criminal trespass? We can't extradite him from Florida. We can't go get him if he's gone because he's from out of state. He's from Florida.
Okay.
Is anything going to happen with these charges, or would that just prevent him from coming back?
It's a pretty small misdemeanor. That said, you don't really want it on your record. Criminal trespass, when you see it, is usually some kind of mental health thing or something like this. So if I'm an employer and I'm looking at that, I'm thinking the guy's got a screw loose. But the short answer is it can turn into an arrest warrant. And I don't know that Collin County is going to go and, spend the however many dollars it's going to take to drag him from Florida. But
nor should they.
Happen. No, really. I mean, you'd be surprised what they want to spend money to go, to go fight crime with. But no, chances are that's a warrant that's outstanding for a while. And maybe if he comes back to visit, if he's got relatives here, he's not wearing his seatbelt, he's gonna get the ride.
Well, that would be funny, but I don't know. I don't know if that's the most judicious use of our scarce taxpayer resources. Now, in the other, the shooting that happened at Wilmer Hutchins. That bond is still astronomically high. What's going on there?
I mean, when you have these types of shootings, again, when bond is initially set, it's usually sight on scene. Bond, again, to kind of go back to our discussion last week, bond is there to make sure that you show up in trial, but the judge also has a duty to protect the community, and you've got a lot of different magistrates that are in the Metroplex, people who set bond. I don't know how many total in the Metroplex there are. There are probably more than 50 judicial officers that exclusively that's what they do as magistrates to set bond. That's not even counting all the county and district judges. So you're going to always have a really wide-ranging a set of opinions that are out there, and every case ought to be its own snowflake, ought to rise and fall on its own merits.
Oh, I like that metaphor. Now, as the layman, how does this work out with you? Because I'm, again, not a lawyer, but I have seen the first 8 seasons of Suits. The bond right now is at $3.1 million, and I think a logical explanation for that would be this kid was trying to kill the principal guy that he shot at. There was some guy that fell and he went up to him and shot him again at point blank range. And since that kid didn't die, if they let him out, they're pretty much opening the door for him finishing the job. Is that part of the thinking?
I don't know if it's quite that detailed. You give the legal community far too much credit for thinking in detail in full sentences. But future danger and threat to the community it's absolutely front and center. And every judge that you talk to sees themselves on the cover of the Dallas Morning News for, we were easy on one drunk driver. We were easy on one domestic violence case. We were easy on one. We let the wrong guy out of jail, and then they go do something that puts me on the cover of the Dallas Morning News. So judges are typically going to be they tend to act with a little fear unless or until they're exposed to a lot more of the specifics. Going back to the Carmelo Anthony bond in Collin County, that judge had a hearing. She had a full-blown hearing. She had people who testified. She got to hear actual numbers, actual money amounts, because, again, bond is to secure the appearance. She got to hear a lot more of the nuts and the bolts. So once the judicial officer is exposed to a lot more facts, then it's certainly going to be a little better tailored to the specific case.
All right, great stuff. Jeremy Rosenthal, TexasDefenseFirm.com. I appreciate your legal mind.
Have a great day, James.
Thank you, sir. You know, sometimes it doesn't sound like it's too easy to be a judge out there. You got to make some big decisions that are going to get criticized either way. But, man, that's a huge disparity. $3.1 million for this kid's bail. But it stuck. So, okay. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I certainly understand why they kept it high. I keep him in there, this guy. And actually, coming up next, you're going to hear some heartbreaking audio of this kid. There's a little spell there from when he did the shooting to when he turned himself in. And he made a video, and someone found it and put it on Instagram. And I'll bleep out the cuss words for you. But, man, it almost makes you feel sympathetic because you got to remember, this is a kid. This isn't an adult. This is a kid. And the audio coming up right after the news break on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. In the other big story from last week, the shooting at Wilmer Hutchins High School. You know, we were all asking what can be done about this, and it's kind of hard to come up with any answers until you know more about the story, primarily what is the motivation. Well, we now have the guy in custody. His bond is set at $3.1 million, so we don't have to worry about getting him getting out anytime soon, and there having to be competing rallies or another press conference. It's all drama laden or whatever. But this guy left a message for you. The shooter, his name's Tracy Haynes Jr., alleged shooter, reportedly, whatever. Don't sue me. Don't at me. But Tracy Haynes Jr. did the shooting at Wilmer Hutchins, where Dallas ISD admitted today that he came in a side door, getting around the clear backpack and metal detector stuff. Another student let Haynes in through a side door, walked around the halls for a minute, found who he was looking for, and went up to a group of male students, started firing, hit a few people on accident, one guy on purpose. You could tell he was singling him out because he had fell to the ground. And then in the security footage that I saw that I think is the shooting, but I'm not 100% sure about any of this, it looks like he went up and shot him again at point blank range. This looked like a targeted hit. And so we're waiting for a little more confirmation on that, and we got it. On Instagram over the weekend, it was being passed around, and thank you to the listener who sent this to me. It was being passed around that he filmed a video between when the shooting happened and when he turned himself into police last week, and he sort of explained himself. Now, this is tough, man, because it's sort of a confession of guilt. It's sort of an explanation, and I want to stress explanation, not an excuse. What he did is still wrong, but I have some sympathy for him after hearing this, because it's not so much a manifesto as it is a cry for help. This is sad. Remember, this is a child. This is 17. And he looks like a baby. I mean, he looks like my kids. My oldest kid's 14. He looks like someone my kid goes to school with. Because it is, same age. But I cut out like the first few seconds of this because he's just listing people and saying, I love you, so-and-so I love you, so-and-so I love you, so-and-so I love you, so-and-so I love you. So I'll pick it up a few seconds into it where he gets to the explanation, and get ready because this is going to break your heart.
People named that I didn't name, trust me, I love you. I can't think right now, but I love y'all. This is my last time I'll be seeing y'all. Last time talking to y'all, excuse my language, but I love y'all. I know I was wrong for what I did, but I didn't want to do it, but I had to do it. I'll be damned if one of us get buried again. I'm tired of us getting buried and nobody doing shit about it. My mama gone, my granny gone, everybody gone that I love. So I can't go. I can't go. I'd rather y'all see me like this, locked up, than y'all see me dead in the ground. Come on now. I know y'all don't want to see me dead. Come on now. Kill myself, but I know that's not what y'all want me to do. So let's be for real, y'all. I love y'all. All
right. So this guy's not full of hate or rage. He was just threatened by some other kids that said they were going to kill him at school. And so he thought the proper thing to do in order to not get murdered was to go kill first. Now, I don't think he's like a Hobbesian philosopher. It's just the way of the street there. And man, the part where he goes, I can't lose no more of us. My mom's gone. My granny's gone. I mean, you think his dad was ever around? This kid has no family. This kid, I think he was living with his aunt because she was the one that talked to the media after the shooting last week when they were looking for him. I believe they went to his aunt's house as well. And this is heartbreaking stuff because this is what we talk about. What chance did this guy have? He lost his mom. He lost his grandma. He has no family. He has no father figure that we know of. Pop culture isn't helping out a whole lot on steering him in the right direction. That's a 17-year-old kid who felt like he had no other option. It was either kill or be killed. And I don't know, maybe he's right. Maybe if he didn't go kill this guy, that guy was going to track him down and murder him. Good God, this isn't what I had to think about when I was 17 in school. This is not something that ever crossed my mind when I was 17. It's not something you didn't have to think about that either. But who's there to tell them that there's more options? You know, I'm really getting sick of these people that say, well, we just need more mentors in the community, or maybe it could be his football coach, or we could have like a Big Brothers program. No, there's no replacement for a dad. There's no replacement for a mom. There's no replacement for a family. You can come up with good substitutions or the next best thing. But that breaks my heart. My God, our children need help. They're so lost that they think this is the way out. They're so lost that they're willing to grab a gun and go shoot another child. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is Kathy in Denton. You're on WBAP. What do you think, Kathy?
I think you're way off on this. I'm sorry, but there is no excuse. There is no excuse. I don't care what anybody's upbringing is. There is no excuse.
Wait, hang on. Can I stop you? You didn't hear me say this is an explanation and not an excuse. I said that exact sentence. So
you have sympathy for this guy. I have no sympathy. I mean, sure, it's sad that he grew up the way he did, but I have no sympathy for this guy. You start doing this, you're going to have way more shootings than we already have.
Well, no. I think you might be misunderstanding me because I don't think we disagree here, Kathy. When I say I have sympathy for the guy, that doesn't mean I don't think he should go to jail. He should definitely go to jail. In fact, he should at minimum get 30 years. I'd be okay if he got life. But I mean, I feel sorry for same way like in Michael Vick's dogfighting ring, how these dogs were abused and they were trained to be killers and they never knew anything different and they were agitated and poked and abused and traumatized and made into these killing machines when they were puppies. They never had a chance. They didn't have a good owner. No. They didn't have a good support system. They didn't have a good family. And so that doesn't mean I'm going to go adopt that dog and let it hang out with my kids and
there's a big difference between a dog and a person.
Well, of course, but that's the closest metaphor I've got.
And no, that's just not sorry. I don't agree with you.
I don't think we disagree. Where do we disagree? Because
sympathy for the guy. No. There's no sympathy for what he did. There's no sympathy. I don't care what his background was. There's no sympathy when he murders somebody. No sympathy. Gotta go.
Okay. I mean, I think you're mistaking sympathy for leniency, and that's not what I'm asking for at all. I'm not asking to go easy on him. I'm saying this isn't like a psychopath. This isn't like a Ted Bundy, a guy who is born without that, innate human connection that most of us share. This guy was abused into this situation. Or I don't know. I mean, my armchair diagnoses probably don't mean a whole lot to people, but I don't know. Part of that breaks my heart. It doesn't break your heart. It's not sad that this guy doesn't have a mom or a dad or a grandma. Could you imagine losing your parents, but not having either one of your parents before you're 17? I know you probably would have handled it better, but there's not just like a tinge of sympathy in your heart for that. 800-288-9227. I don't know. Maybe I'm a softie. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I think we finally have a little bit of a motive from the shooting at Wilmer Hutchins High School. Video that really looks like the kid in the mugshot, Tracy Haynes Jr., who's still in jail on a $3.1 million bond right now. This was passing around social media, and I mean, this looks real, but this was his parting message that gave you sort of a glimpse into why he felt the need to kill this guy, and it stems to the fact that he thought it was either him or the guy he shot. If he didn't go kill him, he was going to be killed by his, I don't know, bully is probably too juvenile of a word for it. But before we get to your calls here it is again.
People named that I didn't name, trust me, I love you. I can't think right now, but I love y'all. This is my last time I'll be seeing y'all. Last time talking to y'all, excuse my language, but I love y'all. I know I was wrong for what I did, but I didn't want to do it, but I had to do it. I'll be damned if one of us get buried again. I'm tired of us getting buried and nobody doing shit about it. My mama gone, my granny gone, everybody gone that I love. So I can't go. I can't go. I'd rather y'all see me like this, locked up, than y'all see me dead in the ground. Come on now. I know y'all don't want to see me dead. Come on now. Cause I kill myself, but I know that's not what y'all want me to do. So let's be for real, y'all. I love y'all.
Yeah, and in the rare instance here where I actually betray a shred of sympathy for a fellow human being, I'm getting criticized for it. 800-288-9227. I feel sorry for that kid. Now, that's not leniency. That explains his actions. It does not excuse them. He should still go to jail, probably for life. But it's just sad. You know, there's a lot of kids that are going through this situation. When we want to get to like the root cause of why we have violence in this community or any community, this is the kind of stuff that we're going to have to deal with if we're going to get to the bottom of it, in my opinion. Walter, Dallas, you're on WBAP. What do you think, Walter?
I think you are showing a little sympathy for him. There's no excuse for what he did. The previous caller was right.
I didn't say it was an excuse. I'm sorry for interrupting you. I said it was an explanation, not an excuse. Those are two separate things.
Well, yeah, and
okay.
You're not wrong. The thing being is if he had to go out, and I question the situation is if he had to go out to kill somebody before they killed him, what did he do to them to make them want to kill him?
Yeah, no, that's a legit question. He's probably not just a completely innocent actor who is sitting there reading his books, going through his Tolkien series. But there's a disconnect that the rest of us have to where even if we were getting bullied, this isn't how we would handle it. We would drop out of school or switch schools, or hey, maybe this is the 1,748th good reason to get school choice in America is so if your kid's getting bullied, he can just go take his money and go to a different school instead of having to murder them or attempted murder them. All right. Am I being too soft, Walter?
Yeah, I think you are.
What's a first for everything? All right.
You know, it is what it is.
Well, thanks for calling me out. Appreciate it, Walter.
Thank you, sir.
Larry in Fort Worth, you're next up on the James Show. What do you think, sir?
Well, I'm sorry, I disagree with those two because, I raised two boys in a mom and daddy home, and my boys didn't want to go out and kill nobody. They were taught better. And these people talking about sympathy, I got a daughter right now that's in prison just because she was hanging around with a guy that beat somebody up, and she didn't call the cops, so she got 10 years for it. So, I have a little sympathy for this boy. Maybe his parents, if his parents were doing their job and was around, maybe I don't know if his parents were together or not, but it seems like what you're saying, maybe they weren't, and he didn't have the right raising, bringing him up.
Well, there is such thing as people who are raised in the household with their biological mother and father who do go out and they commit horrific violent crimes like murder or armed robbery or whatever, and they end up going to prison. But for every one of those are 20 people from a broken home. So it does happen. You can do everything right and still good mom, good dad, good household, and still have a kid who ends up in prison. But for every one of those, there's 20 that come from a broken home, either single mom or there's a step parent in the household or whatnot. And these aren't stats that I made up. Thank you very much, Larry in Fort Worth. Oh, by the way, your thoughts. Am I being too soft here?
I don't think you're being too soft.
All right, and let me get Obama to play the stats so I don't get in trouble.
We know the statistics that children who grow up without a father are 5 times more likely to live in poverty and commit crime. They're 9 times more likely to drop out of school, 20 times more likely to end up in prison.
There you go. Coming up next, you're going to meet a local watchdog who I think hates high-speed passenger rail as much as I do. Dallas and Fuego on the James Show to tell you about a great victory in trying to squish the terrible idea of a light train from here to Houston. That's coming up on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. New people, if you're an all-day listener, you already know this, but new people, I absolutely hate passenger trains with the hot heat of 1,000 suns. And not all passenger trains, just the ones that are subsidized by taxpayer dollars that lose money for no reason, so we can have government-sponsored choo-choo train rides to places that people don't want to go. Hate it so bad. I just, So that makes this next story so lovely. I think I found a guy who hates passenger rail as much as I do, and we both have something to cheer about. I want you to meet Dallas Fuego. He's a local political watchdog here, and we are both just basking in the glory of the funding being pulled for the Dallas to Houston light rail. And Dallas Fuego, first off, welcome to the James Show. What a great win this is.
Yeah, it's really great. I'm just here sipping the tears of the city council right now and everybody in the Dallas city government that was pushing for this project. I hate this as much as you do, without a doubt, for the same reasons.
Well, let's go ahead and spell out some of the details here. So the feds had pulled $62 million that were going to this project, but it wasn't to lay down any tracks or buy any engines. This was just to study the idea.
Well, there was $1.5 million that was already spent to study it. There's an economic feasibility study. And then, of course, there was the notorious trip that taxpayers of Dallas paid to send 5 members of the Dallas City Council to Japan last year to go on a little field trip to investigate high-speed rail, when it was really just, hobnobbing with Japanese government officials, eating expensive sushi, and, God knows what else.
Yeah, you can't go Google it and read online how it's working out in Japan.
Well, I actually don't know how it's working out in Japan. I know they have nice trains, but...
Well, I'll go ahead and spell it out. Every passenger train on planet Earth loses money. It's just not a thing anymore. There's one that kind of breaks even, and it is in Japan. So if you are going to go...
Explain something.
Go ahead.
Let me explain something. The reason why that happens is because this is not modern technology, and this is the thing that drives me nuts about everybody that pushes for this. Let's take a 19th century technology and use that to move people. Meanwhile, people are developing airplanes that can move us from A to B 3 times as fast. And if you want to move past that, then we should be working on some Star Trek technology to beam people from place to place. My point is, let's advance the technology. Let's not step back.
Well, also, if this is such a great idea, why don't you subsidize a paddle boat that goes up the Mississippi next, geniuses? But does this mean that we're done with it, or is this something that could rear its ugly head the second the administration changes?
No, this is they're never going to let this go. This is their wet dream. Now, listen, I lived in California for 22 years.
Gross.
I have seen this boondoggle happen in California. It started as a $30 billion project and is now north of $100 billion. It will never pay for itself, as you've said. And also, by the way, it's the same problem that they have here in Dallas. And, if they were to make a rail line that goes from Dallas to Houston, they're never going to terminate in a place that people are actually going to want to get on them to travel someplace. If you live in Los Angeles, you hop on the I-5 freeway, you drive up to San Francisco. Unless you have a train that can do that in less time, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, we also have the glaring failure of the DART rail system here. And I invite anyone, if you think the DART rail system is a judicious use of your taxpayer dollars, get a lawn chair and a Dr. Pepper Zero and go set up over here by the American Airlines Center at the Exchange, which is supposed to be the busiest part of the entire trip, and see how many empty trains just go in and out of that all day. The doors open, no one gets on, no one gets off. It's like in North Korea or in the Truman Show, where it's just all for theater.
Let me tell you something about DART. 6% of Dallas residents, less than 6%, I think, actually ride DART. There was a study that was done a little while ago that showed that if you bought every DART passenger a Toyota Corolla, it would actually cost less than maintaining the current DART system.
You know what? I saw that. I think I started that because that was when Plano said that they're going to withhold some of the funding. And I did the digging in on how much they spend versus how many people actually use it from Plano. And it came out to about $6,000 per rider per year. And that would cover the payments. That's about $500 a month. That would cover the payments on like a 2017 Corolla. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And Plano's not the only city. I mean, Mesquite won't participate in it at all. And
Genius.
I think that there are other cities around Dallas that are also saying, hey, we want out of this. This is a waste.
Good. Well, I hope it goes away. Now, can you stick around with me for another segment? Because I saw you did something better than anyone else has done it. You actually have a voter's guide because tomorrow starts early voting for a lot of us here in North Texas. And so you're coming up next, you're going to hear the official Dallas en Fuego voting guide for the city council election in 2025. Now, this is going to be just for Dallas. But if you think that's boring and stodgy, the first one, District 1, the description here on his voting guide says, anyone but Bathhouse Chad. So this is not your typical voting guide. You're going to get a bunch of people torched by Dallas en Fuego. See what I did there? Torched by Dallas en Fuego. Bad joke. We continue with Dallas en Fuego next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If you want to jump in the conversation, 800-288-9227. We continue with my guest, Dallas Cienfuego. You can find his good work on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it these days. Dallas, at Dallas Cienfuego. So let's go to your voter guide here. Now, I know not everyone's in Dallas, but this is pretty impactful for even those who just work here. I found this hilarious. Now, first off, early voting begins tomorrow. The election is what, May 3rd, I think, something to that effect. But,
May 3rd, that's right.
Okay. So let's go through the list here. In District 1, you list on the official Dallas Cienfuego voting guide, anyone but Bathhouse Chad, ethics matter. Now, excuse me, who is Bathhouse Chad, and how did he get such a interesting nickname, Dallas?
Well, Bathhouse Chad West is the council member for District 1. I broke a story about him a little while back about how he used campaign donor funds to visit a bathhouse in Washington, D.C. Yes.
Don't laugh. Keep going.
He spent $139 of donor campaign money and then listed it on his report as supplies. So I filed a report with the Texas Ethics Commission, which they took jurisdiction over, and now he has to answer for that and a few other charges that are suspicious on his donor report.
Well, why do we assume it's suspicious because it's a bathhouse? If these other people can fly all the way to Japan just to look at some choo-choo trains, Chad can't go to a bathhouse?
You're not supposed to use your donor funds for personal use or lifestyle activities. That's the reason. That's the law.
All right. Well, and do we assume, I mean, why do we make the assumption that it's something nefarious happened at the bathhouse?
I didn't say anything nefarious happened there. I just said it's a misuse of campaign funds.
Okay.
The law.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he was meeting with a consultant there for the campaign. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you're jumping to some conclusions here by automatically assuming that all of our city councils shouldn't secretly go to bathhouses. You're
Chad
awfully strict.
Chad actually told me himself over drinks. Yes, I had drinks with him. That he was with a donor. But I say,
there you
listen,
go.
That's his poor judgment. It's poor judgment.
Okay. He should have used the other credit card. District 2, Jesse Moreno.
Jesse Moreno, I think he's a common sense. He's a common sense council member. He's the incumbent, and he's looking out for his city. And I think he's doing a pretty good job.
Wow, you said nice things about an incumbent. District 3, Zarin Gracie.
Zarin, also a nice guy. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but his challenger isn't realistic. So let's just keep him.
District 5, don't care, but Jaime Resendez appoint a new CPC rep. We're all sick of Tony Shadid.
Yeah, Tony Shadid is the City Planning Commission chairperson. He's he's way over his term. He's about a year over his term. He's termed out. He needs to go. Jaime, find someone new, please.
District 6, anyone but Lotta Laura Cadena. And then in parentheses, Omar 2.0. Is that an Ilhan Omar reference?
No, that is Omar Narvaez, the District 6 council member. He's termed out. Laura Cadena was his chief of staff forever, so she's just going to be a carbon copy of Omar, and we don't need that.
Why do you call her Lotta Laura?
Well, she's a full-figured woman.
District 7, Jose Rivas Jr. Take Fry Cook off the burner for good. Who's Fry Cook?
Fry Cook is Adam Basildua. He's the incumbent. He's a joke. He's anti-cop. He is a political clown. He likes to go to political events and hang out with people like Jasmine Crockett rather than actually seeing the city business. He's not serious. Jose Rivas is a serious candidate. He sat on the police oversight board. He is a very common sense guy that supports public safety and hiring more cops, which the city so desperately needs.
Why you call him Fry Cook?
Well, he was a cooking instructor at a high school, so that's what I figure he's probably the best at.
Okay. For District 9, now this is going to be a tough one. You want people to write in Johnny Alamo?
Yeah, that's his handle on X. He actually ran against Paula Blackman in District 9 in the last election, and they're rivals. It would just piss her off. So I think it's funny. He's not even technically in her district anymore because they redistricted him, but I think that would be a funny thing to put in there.
We don't have a real challenger for District 9, though?
Nah, not really.
Well, I didn't know he was Johnny Bot on X. I actually follow him already.
Oh, yeah.
District 11, you, in the official Dallas Cienfuego voting guide, you recommend Bill Roth.
Yeah, Bill's in my district. I've met Bill. Very common sense, like Jose Rivas, believes in hiring cops, also believes in supporting and protecting our single-family neighborhoods, which I really value. I think that if a greedy developer wants to come in and rezone land, to put up 1,000 apartments and the people around it don't want it, then you shouldn't do it. And Bill supports that point of view.
Yeah, I think that's one of the places where you and I disagree, but I mean that's light and transient disagreements there. For the next district, vote for the GOAT in District 12, Kara
Vote for the GOAT.
Mendelson.
Kara Mendelson. She's the incumbent. She's done wonderful work for public safety, homelessness in District 12. Highly recommend her. She's a gift to the Dallas City Council.
All right, and flying right through this, the last one is District 13, Diane Benjamin. You want to send deeply unpopular gay Danelle Willis a wildly popular message by Felicia. Why Diane Benjamin over gay Danelle Willis?
Because it would be more symbolic than anything. Because she's an incumbent. Willis is an incumbent. Benjamin is going to have a really hard time beating her. But she believes in supporting single-family neighborhoods, protecting and fighting for the will of the people. So Diane is definitely the better choice.
All right, fantastic stuff. I appreciate both your comments on the train situation and the Dallas City Council Voters Guide. This is Dallas and Fuego. Find him on Twitter or X or whatever the cool kids are calling it these days. It's just his name, at Dallas and Fuego. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, good stuff. Another round for Dallas and Fuego. I love another person who despises light rail trains. It drives me so insane to turn on the TV and everyone in the media, except for like a 4 or 5 people, just love all these shits. We just can't waste your money fast enough, Parker. Hey, coming up this weekend, it's finally going to happen. Blue Ribbon Roofing's 2025 WeatherCon. This is the thing where once a year we get together with our chief meteorologist, Brad Barton, and we take Fox 4's chief meteorologist and we stick them in the Frontiers of Flight Museum on Saturday morning. And you can come out and you can meet the crew. You can meet some of the other WBAP personalities. I'll be there. I believe Hal J will be there. He was the most popular guy, except for maybe Brad. But there's some cool stuff for both kids and adults. If you want to see some Storm Chaser presentations and their equipment in their truck, there's also a presentation from the National Weather Service. There's a lot of scientific and educational demonstrations for little kiddos. You know, some guys out there, like what was the guy, Mr. Brain Teaser, or whatever his name was last year. Good stuff. And then a bunch of our sponsors and other people who are into weather and child's education will have some booths set up in the Frontiers of Flight Museum. So you get to enjoy this whole event while you get to see the museum at no cost. If you went any other day, they would charge you to get in. But you get to go free this Saturday from 9:30 until 1:30 p.m. Frontiers of Flight Museum, thanks to Blue Ribbon Roofing. It's Blue Ribbon Roofing's 2025 WeatherCon. Did I tell you it's free? And I know families, it's so hard to find activities for the kids these days. So come on out, take advantage. It'll be a good time. Learn it, love it, live it. And I'll be there. This counts also as our James Show listener meet and greet. Coming up next, a viral video that's going to make you laugh. Sally from Fort Worth explains why she hates Dallas because she thinks it's, in her words, too fluty tooty. That's coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hello, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Is Dallas Flutie Tootie? Well, it is, according to Sally. And a viral video shows that Sally was visiting her daughter in Dallas recently. And they're in what appears to be a pretty nice SUV in a nice part of town. And the daughter was asking mom why she doesn't like Dallas, why she's always complaining about Dallas. You're going to hear one word that's beeped out. It's the S word. But other than that, mom's just not a big fan. She's from Fort Worth and isn't impressed.
Come and live with me and get out of Dallas. Okay, you have to tell people, why do you give me a hard time about Dallas? Oh, because everything is so fluty tooty and the food is so, oh yes, and then you look and a sandwich is $75 and you think, oh mother, that's okay, this is such and such place. Well, and you act fluty tooty and your car is fluty tooty and Dallas is fluty tooty and I live there. Fort Worth. Well, you live in Hearst, but you grew up in Fort Worth. Well, I know Fort Worth isn't Rudy Tooty. It's nice, a good, great place to live. Dallas is everybody over they're all, something's wrong with them, all of them. And I mean, you can go anywhere and just to eat lunch and it's going to cost $200. I mean, that's true. I don't know. You just sort of get in there. Well, we need to go to some Oscars and have his Oscars a la or whatever he's serving. I don't know.
So the question becomes for you, is Dallas too fluty tooty? Does it even count as fluty tooty at all? Because I think she's describing Highland Park and maybe University Park. Because, yeah, if you go in there, you can have a $200 lunch. But you can't say that about some parts of Dallas. So I guess we got to talk in generalities here. Is Dallas too fluty tooty? So let's take the parts of Dallas that we can admit may be described properly as fluty tooty. Highland Park, University Park, let's make them their own thing. But if you just keep going north on Preston out of there, and really on the tollway as well, you get to Northwest Highway, Preston and Northwest Highway. Okay, Sally, you're right. This is kind of fluty tooty here. Let's go up a little more. Let's go to Preston and Royal. No, still kind of fluty tooty. What if we cross LBJ and go to Preston and Beltline? Yeah, it's still kind of fluty tooty. All right, let's go a little further away. Maybe when we get up to Preston and like Trinity Mills or Frankford. Nope, still fluty tooty. All right, well, what about Preston once you get into Plano? Nope, still fluty tooty. In fact, Preston all the way up through Frisco. Okay, nothing on Preston. Let's skip that. Let's go to some other parts that might be considered fluty tooty. Lower Greenville used to be a fun little place. It still is a fun little place. A little more expensive than when you used to go 20 years ago. Does it count as fluty tooty? That's a big maybe. And then there's some places around here. Uptown fluty tooty. Around here? Because we're at American Airlines Center, for those of you who don't know. Around here? Oh, yeah. Super fluty tooty. There's a place over here, happy hour, where when I started working here, I'm just going to go to some of these random places and see what it's like. I don't need to know what another $18 drink feels like. You're only going to do that once. It's like, excuse me, is there some drugs in here or something? Why is this drink $18? So yeah, fluty tooty here in downtown, sort of uptown. I got you. If you go across the highway here, you're in the design district. Don't even start with me. I'm on Dragon Street with all the furniture galleries and art galleries and murals and okay, fluty tooty. I got you. But there's one place that's going to save it, or actually two big places that are going to save us. Overall from the title of Flutie Tootie. I think we get weighed down and you can't speak in that generalities because of two great places, Oak Cliff and Pleasant Grove. And I mean that as a compliment. I'm not saying you run down in your ghettos. I'm saying at least you're not Flutie Tootie. I mean, you got Big T Bazaar in Dallas. Does that count as Flutie Tootie, Sally? So no, I think a lot of Dallas is being wrongfully stained with the culture that sort of it seems to radiate though from that Highland Park, University Park level of affluence. But also, if you're complaining about something being fluty tooty, are you just admitting that you're poor and you can't afford it? Because that's what I'm usually doing when I complain about if you hear me complain, like something's all stuck up or fluty tooty, $200 lunch. It's not because I don't like it. It's because I can't afford it. It's not because it's not a great neighborhood or a good system or a good society or nice neighbors or a good place to raise kids. It's because it's not good for my bank account. Yeah, Oscars de la Bleep or whatever. I don't know. I don't think I've ever eaten at Oscars de la Bleep, whatever they're serving there, because I'm spending too much time in the drive-thru. And then there's also the counterbalance to where, look, if I go nitpick neighborhoods in Fort Worth, I could throw Flutie Tootie right back at you, Fort Worth. So what do you think? Is Dallas too Flutie Tootie? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Now, I hear this a lot, but I wanted to bring it up to you because ultimately I think the answer is no. I think there are parts, of course, there's nice parts in any town or expensive businesses or high-end restaurants pretty much anywhere that are going to hurt your budget. But I'm skeptical of the Flutie Tootie connotation too, because some of that just seems to be based on a little bit of envy, doesn't it? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we'll talk about immigration. A judge finds probable cause to hold the Trump administration in contempt. Is he really going to be in trouble this time, or is this just another judge stepping out of line? We'll talk about it next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Donald Trump and some judges have some differing opinions on who is controlling who gets deported and how they get deported and the process by which all this happens and who's right. I guess Trump is right, but let's let the courts play themselves out, and you may like the result you get if you go through the whole process anyway. But to put a little more depth on it, Susha Modi's back on the James Show. Welcome back, sir. He's an immigration. Are you an immigration attorney or just immigration advocate?
Yeah, I'm an immigration attorney, practiced almost 15 years. I was also a law professor before as well.
Fantastic. All right, so tell me what I need to know about the case here where this judge has found probable cause to hold the Trump administration in contempt for violating a deportation order. Explain.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, what this hinges around is Mr. Kilmar Garcia. So what he had approved was something called withholding of removal, which is a protection against deportation. What it is, actually, in some ways, it's more difficult to get an asylum, which means that a court in a full trial has found that more than likely he would be persecuted or tortured if he was returned to his home country. So he was actually afraid of gangs, is what a full trial has found. And then under something called the Alien Enemies Act, which was instituted in 1798, the last time it was used before the Trump administration was in World War II against the Japanese concentration camps. And so President Trump invoked that law on a weekend, on a Sunday night, I believe, and Mr. Garcia was removed without even a court hearing or anything, despite that protection he had. And he was removed not to Venezuela, where he's from, but to El Salvador, the harsh prison conditions in El Salvador.
Wait, who are we talking about? Because you're not talking about Abrego Garcia, are you? Because he's from El Salvador, not Venezuela.
No, he's from Venezuela, and he was deported to El Salvador. But the issue here is he was deported without seeing a judge, and he had withholding of removal. And when he was deported in the middle of the flight that was happening, he was in international seas, a federal judge issued that plane to be returned back to the U.S. And the government still removed him to El Salvador. And so what that federal judge recently found was that he's looking into reasonably finding that the government be held in contempt for violating his order. And then that's what's been proceeding since. So an appellate court recently kind of put that on hold, just gave the government more time to have response arguments. And so that's what's developing through the litigation.
Sushma, I don't know if we have our wires crossed, but Abrego Garcia is, it says Salvadoran national here in a couple of reports I'm looking at. Like CBS News, 29-year-old Salvadoran national who lived in Maryland.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, maybe we do have our wires crossed here. What I was mentioning is he was part of the plane of all the Venezuelans that were deported at the same time.
Okay, well,
200 individuals.
That makes sense there. Okay, so I've seen critics of this order say there's some random judge who's not even in the chain of authority here who's trying to overstep his jurisdiction, and he has no say-so over these deportations. That's strictly the jurisdiction of the executive branch, which is headed by Donald Trump.
That's an excellent question as well. It's actually, so just to take a step back, before we talk about this 1798 law that President Trump is trying to invoke again, before this law was invoked, which, by the way, has only been invoked during a declaration of war, which arguably we're not in. But before this was invoked, anybody who was put in, most people who are put in deportation, they have a right to an immigration court hearing. So like a due process to be able to argue their case about if they're afraid to go back, like Mr. Garcia was, if they would get tortured or persecuted. So they have a right, like a due process right. This law is a very rarely used law. I mean, last time it was used was World War II. And it gives the president more rights to deport people without a court hearing, but only under very limited circumstances. So when there's a declaration of war, for example, and also, and this is maybe the clearest reason that it's probably unlawful. I mean, there's several, but another reason is it has to usually, the law says the Alien Enemies Act was passed by Congress in 1798, and the law gives the president authority to not have that normal channel of immigration court proceedings when there's not only a declaration of war, but that declaration of war has to be against a nation or government. So President Trump is trying to use it against, what he deems gangs. And by the way, Mr. Garcia was never convicted of any, criminal gang membership.
Well, we also have sort of the duplicitous language of Congress over here, where, we haven't really declared an official war like in stark terms since World War II, but they will have an authorization for the use of military force that Congress passes through the House and Senate and gets signed by the president. And doesn't that sort of de facto count as the same thing as a declaration of war, even though it doesn't say declaration of war in the title? And this is a layman's question, so this might sound dumb to a lawyer, but I've always found that confusing.
No, another excellent question, actually. The president does have emergency wartime powers, but a formal declaration of war is only done by Congress. And so that's one issue with the Alien Enemies Act. But even if we were to pass that, because you are correct, the executive branch gets more deference during declarations of war or foreign adversaries. So one issue is we're probably not in a war, but even if we were, because the president gets more deference, that war has to be against a nation or government. It can't be
against the ethereal concept of terrorism, because that's something else. Like I said, the duplicitous language, we're in a war on terror. And so then anyone we declare as a terrorist group, I guess we're now at war with these people too. And so I just, that is kind of a sneaky expansion of powers. Not that deporting the guy I think is wrong. It's probably best for America if we deport criminals or people who have shown to be criminals or associated with gangs or any illegal, really. But I've always found that legal gray area kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, actually 2 points to that. I mean, one, exactly correct. There can be a huge slippery slope here because the expansion powers of just deeming anybody a terrorist that we don't like and that we're therefore in a war against them and can just be quickly deported without seeing a judge is quite scary. The second thing is, even if it was against criminals, Mr. Garcia has never been convicted of a crime. So that's another scary thing. But the Trump administration is using language of like a temporary emergency protective order, which is you don't even often get a hearing in front of not a criminal judge, but a family judge, like a civil action. And a full trial, as well as the Fourth Circuit, which is right one level below the Supreme Court, both found, where they had a lot more evidence, that there was tenuous or very flimsy evidence of him being connected to any gang membership. The only evidence was one anonymous informant. So imagine this. Imagine if you just don't like somebody and then you allege that they're part of a gang member and without any criminal conviction, criminal court hearing, any of that stuff, they can just be quickly deported, not to their home nation. I mean, you're correct that he's from El Salvador, but most of them are from Venezuela. And so then they can just be quickly deported to an El Salvadorian prison, which is incredibly harsh that we can all agree on. And without any due process, any rights, be there for a lifetime.
Well, I don't think he hasn't had any due process. He's been picked up and investigated and gone through the court process. He just didn't have an additional hearing once they changed the rules and designated MS-13 a terrorist organization. That undoes his protection that he had against being deported from the previous judge in 2021. And so he's gone through some due process, and there is paperwork that shows when he got arrested, there were two other guys that actually did have their crimes adjudicated and were shown to be part of MS-13. Those were the guys that said he was, and he does have like the tattoo of the skull with the eyes crossed out that seems to be associated with MS-13. So it's not like there's no evidence or there's no paperwork or no due process. They just skipped an additional hearing after they changed the rules and declared MS-13 a terrorist organization. That's my understanding.
Not exactly, though. When he had the due process, he had a full trial, and he had the right to stay here with his U.S. citizen wife and daughter. When he didn't have the due process, like you're mentioning, this new rule that President Trump invoked, he was quickly deported with, at that time, no due process at all, just quickly deported without seeing a judge. And then when they finally got it in front of a judge, and he's an international lawyer, the judge ordered that the plane be turned around. It wasn't turned around.
Susha Modi, immigration attorney. How do we find your work online?
Yeah, it's the Modi Law Firm. So if you just go to www.themodilawfirm.com, you'll see us. And I taught this too. I taught asylum refugee law. So it's an honor to be part of your program, to just discuss something so important about people's lives. So I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, it was a great chat. We'll do it again, Susham. Appreciate it, sir. All right, coming up next, we're going to be playing Dead or Alive for a $50 gift card to some local restaurants. Find out which one's next. In today's category, if you want to try and win the $50 gift card to either Mia Dia from Scratch, Flips Patio Grill, Winewood Bar Grill and Bar. Today's category in Dead or Alive, Fort Worth. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Joining me now is my good friend Bob Lavelle. Where Bob Lavelle, I saw that for last month, the Dallas real estate market led with the most homes closed, beating Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Houston. This was the hottest market last month. Bob, explain that.
I worked my butt off.
Yeah, that's all you. That's all Bob, y'all.
So we're lucky. We really are lucky to be here because the economy has not affected the Dallas market as much as it has other places. The prices are really not bad. The builders are sitting on inventory now, and that always causes, activity. Prices go down. So, yeah, we're just really fortunate to be here.
Well, how fast can you get someone in a house if they call you right now?
The facts are, if they're clean on their credit, their DTI, all those things, they're actually getting them in 10, 12 days.
All right, make that magic happen for you. Get out of the rent race, get into home ownership, start building your wealth, start building your family's empire. 972-392-9595. 972-392-9595. You can go to blessyourheart.com, or if you want to jump into the hottest housing market in the entire country, call 972-392-9595. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Jim.
Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Now you've come across one of the James Show game shows. Let's play a little Dead or Alive. All right, thank you, Mr. Jovi. Welcome, everyone, to Dead or Alive. I'm your host, James Parker. Today's edition of Dead or Alive, the Fort Worth edition. Ooh, doesn't that sound exciting? A round of applause for Fort Worth. Well, I'm not going to ask you if it's Flutie Tootie. The way this game works is I'm going to list 10 people, celebrities, and you have to guess if they're dead or alive. And by the Fort Worth edition, they were either born in Fort Worth, or they grew up in Fort Worth, or they previously lived in Fort Worth, or they died but in Fort Worth, or they're in Fort Worth now. So it's a pretty wide swath, but anyone with the Fort Worth connection is today's edition. And we're playing for a $50 gift card. That's good for a few restaurants here. Medea from Scratch, Flip's Patio Grill, and Winewood. It says grill and bar, but isn't it supposed to be bar and grill? It says grill and it's a beautiful naming convention because it kind of sounds unique. But that's what we're playing for today. There's one spot open if you want to jump in. 800-288-9227. But let's start with all the great contestants we have now. Let's start with Ray. Hello, Ray in Granbury. Yes. Are you ready for Dead or Alive, sir?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. In the Fort Worth edition, we're going to start with number one. Shelley Duvall from The Shining and a bunch of other movies. Is she dead or alive? Shelley Duvall.
I believe she's still alive.
You believe what?
She's still alive.
Oh, I even gave you a second chance. All right, she died in 2024.
All
right, thanks, Ray. Hang on, don't hang up. Maybe we'll cycle back around. Jeff Aubrey, you ready for Dead or Alive?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's what Ray said. Larry Hagman, we all know him as J.R. Ewing. Is he dead or alive?
He is dead.
Died in 2012. Well done, sir. The great Bill Paxton, who I didn't know he had a Fort Worth connection, but yeah, he's from Fort Worth. Dead or alive?
Dead as well.
Yes, sir. Died in 2017. The lead singer of the Toadies, named Vaden Todd Lewis. Is he dead or alive?
I'm going to say alive.
He is alive. He's only 59, just running out of Fort Worth people. Jeff and Aubrey's favorite pastor, Kenneth Copeland. Is he dead or alive?
Alive.
He is alive. I don't know if that's your favorite pastor or not. Just throwing that in there. I think he just went and visited Trump for Easter, didn't he?
I don't know, sir.
You don't have to know that. It was a rhetorical question. Next one.
Oh.
That's all right. Fess Parker. He was both Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone. Is Fess Parker dead or alive?
I think he's been dead a long time.
Yeah, since 2010, so yeah. Bob Schieffer. He was host of Face the Nation and an anchor on CBS News for a couple decades. Is he dead or alive? Yes, and TCU grad. Thank you, other TCU grad Garrett. But yeah, Bob Schieffer, dead or alive?
I think he's dead.
Nope, still alive. 88 years old.
Well.
Yeah, it was worth a shot. We have Brian. Brian in Plano, you ready for Dead or Alive?
I'm ready.
Taylor Hawkins, the drummer of Foo Fighters, dead or alive?
It's so sad he's dead.
All right, you didn't catch me because I didn't say the former drummer of the Foo Fighters. Kelly Clarkson, fantastic singer, also had a run there as a talk show host, dead or alive?
She is alive.
Yeah, she's only 42 years old. Hey, she's a really good talk show host, by the way, and that's not so easy as a talk show host. And finally, another TCU guy for you, Garrett. This is the Fort Worth edition, so you know there's going to be a couple of them. Not only did he play wide receiver for TCU, the Horned Frogs, he played wide receiver for the Houston Oilers and for the Dallas Cowboys. He's one of the great Texas football players of all time. Mike Renfro, dead or alive?
Ooh, that's tough. I'm going to go with dead.
No. Mike Renfro. Brian, you were doing so well. So who gets it then? Does it go to Mark? Mark
Yes.
in Midlothian, are you dead or alive?
I'm very alive.
There you go. You got it, bud. You got it. You got to thank Brian for dropping the ball. Brian in Plano fumbled number 10. So the Mike Renfro goof is your reward, Mark in Midlothian. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, that's the easiest one. I love it when that happens. I used to hate it when that happens, but I've grown to love it. Because how great is that for Mark in Midlothian? That's just an encouragement for everyone. You always call, always participate. If you want the prize, there's a chance you can get it, even if you didn't have to answer one question like Mark in Midlothian. But because Mark called in, he's going to win a $50 gift card, good for Medea from Scratch. I'm saying MIDIA, Medea from Scratch. Flips Patio Grill and Winewood Grill and Bar. This has been today's edition of Dead or Alive. Focus, Mr. Jovi. Don't miss your cues. All right, coming up next, we have some fun update from solar plant history. An Obama project failed miserably. You'll find out details next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, homeowners here in Texas, there was some random storms. There was a few tornadoes that touched down. I saw a lot of high winds and some viral videos floating around on the social media feed. If you go out and you look at your roof, front yard or backyard, and you see anything that looks wrong, you see a shingle missing, you see some flashing flying up, you see anything suspicious, call Blue Ribbon and have them come out and check it out. Because why? The inspection is free. Don't take a chance with your roof, because if you're wrong, the problems are going to compound. Leaking water, getting through in your walls and in your house. You're going to have huge, exponentially exploding cost if you don't get ahead of that. And if it just happened this weekend, you need to call them right now. Go to blueribbondfw.com. You don't have to trust me and Casey and Bob over at The Ticket. You can check out the hundreds of 5-star reviews. And look, you're looking for the place to trust with your most valuable asset, your house. You're not going to pick someone out of a sign that's sitting in the median of the intersection. You're not going to go to Google and just type in roofers near me. You're going to go with a family business that's been here for over 31 years. John, Tish, and Trevor are the family that will take care of your roof. And if you need some help with it, then we'll work out. Is this just going to be a patch? If you need a whole new roof, you can tell them you heard it on the James Show and get a free ridge vent ventilation upgrade. They will even help you with that pain in the neck insurance paperwork and make sure you get all the claim you deserve. BlueRibbonDFW.com, BlueRibbonDFW.com. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, that's cute. I just saw here on WFAA.com that the Dallas Stars captain Jamie Benn is a new dad. Hey, that's fantastic. Especially we talk about, family formation and the importance of the nuclear family and stuff on this show. It's good to celebrate that. I know what you're doing. You're doing what I'm doing. Remember way back when your first kid was born and how much that just changed your entire world and made you a better person. That's what Jamie Benn's going through now, right? He's also having to juggle the hockey playoffs. So he's got a lot going on. Poor guy. All right. Hey, there was an update here that I didn't want you to miss because it's not going to be a big headline. I mean, you'd think this would be bigger news even on like a Fox News or a Newsmax or something. But I'm going to make sure you hear this because this happens all day, every day over my radio career. Something that you were told was a great idea and we're going to spend all this money on it 10, 15, 20 years later. Falls flat on its face, is a huge embarrassing failure, and it never gets the same amount of coverage that it got when they were cheering for it, when they were telling you it was a good idea. So I don't think the average American, you probably do because you listen to WBAP, but I don't think the average person walking down the street, if I threw a rock out the window and hit somebody, I don't think they would understand how terrible all of these ideas that are talked about in the news turn out to be in hindsight. And I don't mean all of them, but it's about like 90%. And so here's another one. They're closing down a solar plant that Obama had touted, but it's not just an Obama thing. I mean, it's all these global warming people and these green energy and renewable energy, and we have to get a Green New Deal and Bernie AOC. It's that whole mindset here. Another failure. This was reported by Fox News over the weekend.
The Ivanpah solar plant went live 10 years ago and was supposed to produce clean power for at least 30 years. Instead of solar panels, it uses giant mirrors to concentrate the sun's energy on these towers, which boil water, generating steam, creating electricity.
It's going to put about 1,000 people to work, building a state-of-the-art facility.
As part of his climate agenda, President Obama gave Ivanpah $1.6 billion in federal loans, a $535 million grant, a 30% tax credit worth about $600 million, and an accelerated depreciation schedule that allowed investors to write off their capital investment in just 5 years.
So if you want to add all that up, over more than $2 billion of your dollars went to them just straight up. And then they also didn't charge them any taxes. So money that if some other entity went through and tried to do the same thing or something similar, some other electricity generating enterprise, they would have gotten taxes that these people didn't get hit with. So if you want to add it all up, the abatements and the straight up grants and loans that, didn't get paid back, obviously, we're talking about $3 billion of your money. Now, in the grand scheme of things, that's not a big deal. But when we have like the Inflation Reduction Act, which was called the greatest green energy, renewable energy investment of all time, the Green New Deal, I mean, we've already passed trillions of dollars of these terrible, god-awful ideas. But when you go back, it only took 10 years. Remember, it was supposed to last 30 years. Didn't make it 10 years. You were told that it was going to create thousands of jobs. Here it is 10 years later. It's going to be down to 0 jobs before the end of the year. 0! Not 1,000, not 100,000. 0 is what you're getting in return for that $3 billion that got kicked out of your butt. And even if it did, I mean, how much money is that per job? Good Lord. And then you heard the clip from Obama. This is state-of-the-art technology that's going to bring us into the future of energy generation. And no, it's not state-of-the-art. It failed. It failed in a decade. Come on, man. How bad does it have to be before we stop accepting any more of these projects? This is why I don't like the high-speed rail idea. It's going to be the same thing, just like the geniuses that thought, here, you know what we need in downtown Dallas? We need to turn the Trinity River into some rapids, and you can inner tube down. What a stupid idea that was. And how long did it last? A couple months? These are all terrible ideas, and they don't happen in a vacuum. They just happen over and over. I want to remind you that there was another terrible one where Obama taken a bunch of your money and given it to an electric vehicle company. Smith Vehicles, remember that?
The president was here in Kansas City for a whirlwind visit today.
He arrived over the noon hour at KCI and left about 4 this afternoon. His first stop was Smith Electric Vehicles, which is located in the old TWA overhaul base. We begin our live team coverage tonight there with Peggy Bright. Peggy.
Kelly, President Obama came here to see these trucks. They are electric trucks running solely on battery power, and the 50 workers who assemble them here.
You're doing more than just building new vehicles. You are helping to fight our way through a vicious recession, and you are building the economy of America's future.
Yeah, that was in 2010. That place went out of business like 6 years ago, just so you know. All of these projects that go through government to try and do something the market doesn't do are wrong. If we really did want all kinds of electric vehicles and trucks made like Smith was making them, you wouldn't have to subsidize it. There would already be the money there. Some evil capitalist pig would be making a profit off of it. But the market was right. You were wrong. You just didn't like the result. The market was right. You just didn't like the result. So can we stop this now? Can we stop all these dumb projects? Whether it's a solar panel plant or some other green energy or windmills or high-speed rail or DART, they all fail on a long enough time scale, and they don't ever circle back. KMBC, well, President Obama was here in Kansas City for a couple hours today. Do you think they did a report like that when it went under? Do you think they spent nearly as much time reporting the failures as they did celebrating the wasting and torching of your tax dollars? Of course not. All right, that's going to do it for the James Show. If you need more James Show action, I'm about to get off here and go put up the podcast. Check it out, WBAP.com, WBAP app. Mark Levin's next. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.